Can hear us, Okadoke. Hello and welcome to our Update 29, the Codex War Preview, here on twitch.tv/DDOstream. I am DDO Community Manager Cordovan. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be taking your Q&A throughout the day today, or throughout the next hour here. We're going to look at the upcoming Legendary Shroud, some of the new raids, some of the new quests, Epic Green Steel, feats, and you name it, a whole bunch of cool stuff coming up in the next about 45 minutes to an hour. And like I said, we will take your questions over in Twitch chat. That's twitch.tv/DDOstream. If you want to ask us a question, ask away. If we can answer it, we will. If we can't, I'll just let you know that as well. We're going to start by doing some introductions. First up here is Vargwheel. How you doing?
Howdy.
We have No Bob with us.
Hello.
We have got No Worries.
Hey there.
We have got Knockback.
Happy festival.
And finally, Steel Star.
Hey, everybody.
All right. And basically, we've got the most of the dev team that's working on Update 29 here. Some other folks are not with us, but are with us in spirit. And we appreciate you guys joining us here on twitch.tv/DDOstream. If you hit that follow button, you'll be notified for when we go live with previews just like this one. You can also find our full schedule, Sunday to Sunday shows, on twitch.tv/DDOstream. So, first off, Update 29, the Codex War, is our last update of the year, and it caps off a storyline that we've been working on for quite a while this year. Knockback, maybe you want to start by telling us a little bit about what is the Codex War and what's happening here in Update 29.
So if you've been playing DDO this year, you know that two things. One is there are these mysterious remnants, which we found out are parts of something called the Codex of the Infinite Planes, which is a very, very powerful book that gives power over infinite planes. And the other is that the devil leader, Eritrakos, is trying to put this book back together, having accidentally blown it up. So this brings us, this has brought Eritrakos back to Meridia and the Shroud, and it will bring you, the players, back as well. And you're going to see a couple new quests, as well as some new legendary versions of classic DDO raids.
And when we say legendary, we mean level 31 plus. This is a new tier of levels that we're really going into here, starting with Update 29. Legendary raiding, legendary questing, and we'll be doing a lot more legendary stuff, I think, here in the coming months and years.
One of the fun things about this storyline we've been doing is it allows us to revisit some classic DDO themes, including Green Steel. But if you were paying attention during that loading screen, we also get to see some of our favorite characters again.
As you round a corner of the path.
All right, so we're in one of the first new quests here on Update 29. I should mention here that we're going to be a little spoilery, but we are going to try to be relatively spoiler, I guess we should say spoiler level medium. We are going to see some content here in Update 29, but we'll try to not give away everything. All right, so what can we see? What's going on here in this first quest?
So in this first quest, the Devils have taken over a House to Youth stronghold in the jungles of Zendrik while they're here trying to put the Codex back together. And you call in a favor you earned with the Archons of Shavarath a couple updates ago to get the Archons to help you take back the castle. So during the course of this quest, you will fight through this House to Youth castle and fight various Devils, some Slod mercenaries they've hired, and also meet the commander of the Devil forces here. And it's a big sprawling castle. It's inside and outside bits.
I guess in some ways you could call it a little bit of a castle siege.
Yes, yes. And this time it's happening on in Zendrik as opposed to in Shavarath last time. Last time we were sieging castles or fortresses. So we see our old buddies, the Abishai, are back. I would like to tell you, but I believe it's random.
I believe it is randomized, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well, maybe I will use some cheating and stuff.
The sounds of battle echo down from high above the courtyard.
All right, so we have got some new slod, some blue slod.
Right, so we have red, green, and blue. Yes. Yeah, and there are some of them, or were some of them.
It happens.
You are mighty.
I should mention that right now we are on an internal development server, as opposed to, say, Lamania or whatever, because we wanted to get the latest version of this stuff to you. And Lamania is actually being cropped as we speak, so it made sense to go onto our internal server right now to show you some things. So if there's a few things that aren't 100% like what you'll see when Update 29 is released, then that's what that's about. Alright, maybe I'll just kill these guys and then we'll show a little bit of who we fight at the end, perhaps?
Sure.
Let me ask the chat room again. I did turn down the game sounds. Is that a little bit better than what it was, or is it still a little bit too much on the loud side, on the in-game audio? Let me know and I can turn it down some more for me too. Oops. This is an old favorite.
Right, so the commander of this fortress is one of Eritrakos' lieutenants, and we established that she was one of Eritrakos' lieutenants a couple updates ago, namely Militia, the succubus, who you've met before. When the fight starts, she'll talk a little bit about how you've met before and how you've killed her before, but as everyone knows, in order to kill someone from another plane, you have to actually kill them on their plane. Otherwise, you just send them back to their plane. And it turns out Militia is not from Eberron, which is perhaps not surprising, but she's also not from Shavrath. So you haven't managed to actually kill her ever. Where is she from? Well, we won't find out this time.
Soon, maybe.
And as you may have noticed from the party hats on the way in, she has mind-controlled some of the House Deneath troops. There is a way to prevent that from happening, but you will have to explore the quest to find out what it is.
All right, I think we'll leave this quest at this point then and teleport back to Meridia here and go into the next one. Now, this next dungeon, if I recall correctly, was made by you, Bob.
Yep. The name of this particular dungeon is called Creeping Death. And
maybe get a little bit closer to the
sorry. The name of this dungeon is Creeping Death. And essentially, you're going to meet Garko, which is one of his lieutenants, Eritrakos' lieutenants. The 12 happened to find out from a mage or someone of that sort that he was hiding down here, and so they set up an entire set of magical ambushes, which you're going to assist them in building and putting together.
And, you know, Eritrakos has been using Codex pages to give his lieutenants strange and unusual powers, some of which we've seen in previous updates. Garko has a very unusual power, which is he's able to control oozes. So, Garko is in fact embedded in a giant gelatinous cube, a super deadly gelatinous cube. In fact, if you touch it, you die.
And as you just saw, that nice little gelatinous cube ran over a couple of the guardsmen down there and consumed them, and so they fell over dead as a little hint that it might be bad to get into his proximity. He's sort of, while you're running through this dungeon, what you're going to be doing is activating a series of different traps. These specific traps, what they do is they teleport him and move him to the next section. There are a series of different types of challenges, and a lot of these are kind of harken back to the olden days of those challenges. In fact, the types of things like sewers, so you'll see a lot of kobolds, a lot of slimes, a bunch of traps, things of that sort. It's kind of coming home. So, any other? What's up? What are we working on next?
Let's see. I guess we could say I don't really want to spoil the end, but we do have a particular challenge at the end of this quest that I think we'd rather maybe people just sort of find out on their own. But let's just say that's not the last time you run into Mr. Cube.
Yeah, exploring a set of sewers with a cube whose touch is death can be challenging.
Yeah, and perhaps there are sections that you have to navigate and be a little crafty for. There might be some jumping puzzles. There might be some things of that sort that you have to kind of navigate as you go through.
If you played it last night, you'll find it slightly different today, and if you play it later than today, you'll find it different yet again.
Yes. The version of it which is up on Lamania, or is about to be up on Lamania, doesn't have all the traps in it. All the traps will be added hopefully by the time we launch. I just finished them up right before we went into this meeting, so yeah.
Cool. We're not going to, I think, show much of Legendary Hound of Zoriat or Legendary Tempest Spine because the physical spaces themselves have not changed much. So those who are familiar with those raids are going to see a familiar space, but we have updated them to Legendary status. Just so I want to speak a little bit about what we can expect in these raids for Legendary.
Sure. For Legendary Hound and Legendary Tempest, these raids, as Cordovan said, are very, very similar to their heroic counterparts, but they've had their monsters, their locked doors, etc., brought up to legendary status. So if you've played it before, you know what to expect. That said, especially in the case of Hound of Zoriat, it's going to be a challenge. So,
and of course,
there are still bees,
and the treasure is different,
and bees,
and bees. I hope you like
Very
bees.
Important.
I got you guys a lot of bees.
So what is the level range on these legendary raids then?
The legendary raids in this update are level 32 on normal,
right?
Which is up to 34 on elite.
And flagging, someone says flagging for a legendary Shroud is basically running those two quests.
It will be. While we're on Lamania, there won't be any flagging at all, just so as many people can play Legendary Shroud as possible. But once it goes live, you'll have to play the two quests in order to flag for the Shroud.
Felicia asks, I have a question about the new loot for Epic Tempest and Hound. Are they going to stay the same buys for both quests? I think he's just basically saying, what's the loot in these new legendary raids?
So the loot in Hound of Zoriat and Tempest Spine, their loot lists are very similar. There is a large set of new armors covering a lot of different archetypes, and there's a set of new shields. And those both drop... both of those groups drop in both Hound of Zoriat and Tempest Spine. There's a pair of new hand wraps that only drop in Tempest Spine, and there's a new rune arm that only drops in Hound of Zoriat, but otherwise their loot lists are relatively similar.
All right, so let's head into Legendary Shroud. This is the thing that I know folks have been waiting for quite a long time. We have a new Shroud, new green steel, new craziness. And that's actually you, Knockback, that mostly worked on the Legendary Shroud here.
Yep. Legendary Shroud is a variation on the classic Shroud. Most of it is the same, but during the first 4 phases, you'll see a new twist here or there. For example, you will, in a second, see Harry appear, Eretrikos appear, instead of the member of the 12 that you'd see in the Heroic Shroud. So the storyline is somewhat different. This is concluding the storyline of Eretrikos and the Codex of the Infinite Planes. But what you do in the first sections of the raid is fairly similar. You will see a monster or two you haven't seen before. Things will play out slightly differently than they have before, but it's mostly the same, just legendary. We're in the process of looking at monster difficulty and adjusting monster difficulty, and we really want to get your feedback. We particularly welcome feedback at, all the difficulty levels, not just on elite, not just on normal, but on both. So let us know what you think.
There have been some significant changes since yesterday's Lamania.
Exactly. So if you played it yesterday, you'll find it's tougher today, and on Elite, it's considerably tougher today. So let us know what your experience is.
All right. I guess I will
see some of the differences right now, even.
I guess I'll probably just scoot to part 5 here. This is a little bit on the spoiler side, but I think it's important to show you guys sort of one of the big things here in the Shroud. So, what in the world This is the Codex War. Why are we fighting over a Codex? What is it?
Well, the Codex of the Infinite Planes is an artifact which contains an infinite number of pages that give power over the different planes. And it has the power to influence and corrupt people's minds. And it's been more or less controlling Eritrekos throughout this entire process. It's also been controlling this Rakshasa we see, who we met in the last update briefly, who is Eritrekos' ally on Eberron. Basically, the deal was Eritrekos would get Chavarath, and this Rakshasa supposedly would get Eberron. The end fight, part 5 of the Shroud, is completely different, and it revolves not around Eritrekos, but rather this Rakshasa and the Codex itself. And so you'll see different things in this fight and have a different experience during this fight than in the regular Shroud.
All right, a good time to transition a little bit now that we've looked at 3 raids about this raid rune system. We've had some questions in our chat room a little bit about what are these raid runes, how are they going to work?
Sure. So the system with raid runes is new in this update. It specifically applies to the new raids in this update. With regards to Tempest Spine and Hound of Zoriat, this system is a replacement for the 20th list you would find in other raids in the game. Instead of having a 20th list, each time you run these raids, they drop a number of runes in the end chest. You collect these runes, and when you have enough runes, you can talk to the quest giver of the raid that you've been running and turn them in for one of the named items out of the raid. For most players on normal, on average, you're going to get your item in around 20 runs, similar to how you run 20 times and get an item from a 20th list. On hard and elite, you get more runes in the end chests, so you work toward those items a little bit faster.
They are also bound to account, so
Yes.
if you want, you can run the raid on all your alts and pass the runes together to get an item faster that way.
They are not, however, passable in the chests, as everybody that runs the raid gets their own set of runes.
And that's really similar to how you can't pass your completion to someone
Right,
else.
you can't pass your completions to other people to get a 20th list. This is a replacement for that system, so it's a little bit more flexible than the 20th list in some ways because you can run with your own alts, but still to replace the 20th system where you really have to run the raid 20 times yourself, you yourself need to run the raid the number of times needed to get enough runes.
We really want to reward the player there.
Yes.
And for Legendary Shroud, it is largely the same. The only additional thing you can do with the Codex runes is buy green steel blanks.
All right, so we'll
on-
actually transition to green steel in just a little bit. But what
One
did you
quick
say?
thing with that is also with Tempest and Hound of Zoriat. If you already have the items you want out of those, you can still trade your Hound of Zoriat and Tempest Spine runes for some green steel ingredients. So there's still some things you can do with those runes, even if you got the named items out of the quest you're looking for.
All right. We've had some people in chat say basically they really like the system. What about bringing this rune system to all the other raids in the game?
It's something we thought about a little. We don't have immediate plans for that. Some of that I think will depend on how well this system ends up being received. It's been received pretty well on Lamania so far. We're still tweaking numbers. There's been some good feedback on that. Hard to say right now.
Right. Well, we'll probably look at it again next year.
Yep.
Quick question from the chat room as well. Are we going to need to buy a new adventure pack in order to access this stuff? The answer to that is no. If you have the Veil of Twilight pack, you will have access to the Legendary Shroud, these new quests, and Legendary Hound of Zoriat. Legendary Tempest Spine is actually a free raid, so you don't need any adventure pack in order to run that. But if you already have the Veil, you've got everything you need, and if you don't have the Veil, you might want to pick that one up, because it's still going to get you all the old content in addition to this new stuff here as well.
And the price for Veil is going up, so.
Right.
Yes, and you can find the numbers on that on the forums. Yeah, Tolero mentioned about that. Let's see. Oh, actually, Jaron Aron brings a question that I know you would be able to address here, Knockback, and that is, what's with champions in the raid?
Right, so why are there champions in the raid, particularly as you probably went in on normal? The answer is, while you may not have realized it, Champions are in fact created by the Codex, or rather by the mysterious remnants, which are tiny pieces of the Codex. And since you're now in a room with a Codex, the Codex is able to create champions at will, pretty much. So during this raid, he will in fact make monsters into champions, a very particular type of champions called champions of the Codex. People have asked about mysterious remnants. Sadly, you do not get mysterious remnants because right now you're in the middle of a ritual which is putting the Codex back together, so all the mysterious remnants are getting sucked up by the Codex.
All right, I think I'm going to leave the final battle unseen. I don't want to spoil everything here on the Legendary Shroud. So we're going to head on back and talk a little bit about Legendary Green Steel. So, Varguil, I think you'll be doing a lot of the talking on Legendary Green Steel here. Just to set the stage a bit, what is Green Steel and how does Legendary Green Steel differ from the heroic Green Steel that players have had for quite some time now?
So, for anyone who's unfamiliar with Green Steel, it's a crafting system from the Shroud, essentially, and also from other quests in the Veil Pack, in the Heroic Veil Pack, which is around level 16, where you collect various ingredients, really quite a lot of ingredients, use some of those to craft a blank weapon or accessory, such as a belt or a necklace, or most of the pieces. There's 8 different equipment pieces, in addition to basically every weapon in the game. There's a few missing. And once you make that blank item, the weapon or accessory, you can use ingredients to craft them up 3 times, to upgrade them 3 times, essentially, to tier 1, 2, and 3, giving them special powers. And those are based on the quasi-planes and demi-planes in the Eberron universe. So you can make a magma item or a radiance item or an ooze item, which some players love and some players hate. But Legendary Green Steel is basically, we've tried to take as much of the structure from Heroic Green Steel to Legendary. We know a lot of people really liked the way that Heroic Green Steel worked. We've tried to cut out some of the more busy work that was involved there. So a bunch of the ingredients don't exist anymore. There is no Legendary Chipmunk Funk or Tapers. Instead, that is part of the reason that we've replaced it with using the Codex runes from the end chest of the Shroud to buy your blanks. It eliminated about 20 ingredients that players probably mostly didn't care about. Also gone with that is collecting the Signet Stones, so you don't have to run Coalescence Chamber or anything else to make your blanks. You just have to run a Shroud. One of the major differences in Legendary Green Steel is that instead of the upgrading path that was used, we are now using an augment type of system where you can build the augments for tiers 1, tier 2, and tier 3 in any order that you want and just plug them into your Green Steel weapons or Green Steel equipment, belts and necklaces. We filled in a few of the few missing weapons that were missing in Heroic, such as darts, in case someone wants to make Green Steel darts. You can now do that in Legendary.
Nice. All right. I guess we should just say I forgot to populate some augments here, but you're basically just going to drop them right into the augment slot, which is this little diamond on your inventory sheet. You'll put in the augment, you'll put in the Legendary Green Steel weapon, right? And then you'll basically just see whatever it is you can do in terms of slotting augments. So really, the system of creating this stuff is fairly easy.
Right. We've tried hard to make this easier than Heroic Green Steel in a lot of ways, and also easier than augments in some ways.
790 asks, hey, can we see some more Legendary Green Steel weapons? Yeah. While they're talking, I'm going to be creating and showing off a whole bunch of the weapons there. Let me get to a couple of questions that we've seen. One is, what about Devil Assault? Will it be dropping any just regular Green Steel ingredients or Legendary Green Steel ingredients?
Right now, there's no plans to change any of the loot drops in Devil Assault, so there will not be Legendary Green Steel in Devil Assault. It already has its sort of weird level structure. We're not extending that at all. It's going to still be up to level 18, and Heroic Green Steel will still be in there.
Technical 13 says, hey, can we get a Legendary Green Steel altar on our airships? Not for Update 29. It's certainly something that we could consider for the future. He also wants to make a suggestion about having common legendary green steel augments drop pre-made. My understanding is we want it to be a crafting system.
Right now, our plan is to make it a crafting system. This is more or less like heroic. It's something that we did talk about, but right now we wanted to. Part of the problem with dropping specific augments is there's really quite a lot of augments in the green steel system. There's actually hundreds. So if we dropped fully formed augments, the chance of getting the one you want is extremely low. So it really is to the player's benefit that you actually craft the one you want.
All right. Quick question from DDO Central. What's the name of Update 29? That is the Codex War. And we're actually going to be seeing some more about that through the weekend. So stay tuned on our social networks. I think we got some cool images to show you guys. Let's see if we have anything else. So are these augments unsocketable, or once used, is that it?
So somewhat similar to the existing augment system, which is different and uses a different UI. You cannot remove them, but we are planning to put in a store item. I believe it is the legendary green steel augment extractor. It's quite a mouthful, but that will allow you to remove one of the augments and get it back.
Are there shields with legendary green steel?
No, there are not, which is part of the reason there are a whole set of brand new shields in the other two raids.
Yeah. Green steel does not cover armor, does not cover shields.
Doesn't cover orbs or hand wraps or rune arms, or basically the things we put in the other raids.
All right. Titan asked about something we were doing on an admin in that first quest. Yes, I did walk through a wall. That's an admin cheaty thing I did because I didn't want to work on finding the right keys and all that sort of thing. But you could ignore that. You will not be walking through walls. Yes. All right. Before we move on, I guess, is there any questions from the chat room about legendary green steel or legendary shroud? If you want to ask about either of those things, or perhaps legendary Hound of Zoria and Tempest Spine, let's get those questions done now. And then in a minute or so, we'll switch on over to level 30, some of the feats and things like that. Shall this augment extractor be found in raid chests? My understanding is it's going to predominantly be found in the DDO store. To the extent that store items can appear elsewhere, it is a theoretical possibility. But the primary method is through chests, and is there other ways that you know of?
I don't know of any plans for other stuff. It wouldn't shock me if it showed up in something like Daily Dice or something someday, but I don't know. So.
Rothko says, is the date of the update set? We have a tentative date that we will be hopefully announcing soon, but we're not quite ready to announce it yet today as of this afternoon, so sorry about that. Avarice says, so are we basically buying blanks with our 20th reward?
That is essentially true, that the blanks are intentionally relatively cheap. They should only take a couple of runs at most to make, even on normal. You do get more Codex runes on Elite, so basically the cost of the blanks is intentionally quite cheap, but yes, it is part of the same reward ingredient that is used for the 20th list, essentially.
All right, and what about hand wraps? I know we had a couple of questions. Basically, are we working on updating how hand wraps work? This is not really Shroud related. This is more future Q&A related, but we might as well answer that now. It is on our agenda, hopefully next year, to take a look at how hand wraps work, to make them work more like regular weapons. But that will not be coming in Update 29. That's something we have heard from you guys. It's going to be a bunch of work. One of these guys is going to have to do it, and maybe it's even going to be you, Farqueel.
It might.
Yeah.
Well, might.
Yeah. But, yes, it is on our agenda, but it is not coming in Update 29. All right. Is Lamania coming back today, that being Friday, December 11th? The answer is yes. And probably as soon as we're done here, we'll let you know more about that. Okay, so let's move on to level 30 and epic feats and that sort of thing. So, level 30. Another couple of levels here. We had a cap of 28, now we go up to 30. We've rebalanced some of the XP in the epic levels. You can find out the exact numbers on the forums, plus I think even the DDO Wiki has that stuff up at this point. Is there anything you want to mention about the general process of leveling up to 30 that we should let the community know about?
A lot of it's going to feel very similar. The major things that come with level 29 and level 30 are you get some fate points. You get so that you can spend more Twists of Fate on your Epic Destinies. You get a new Twist of Fate slot if you are level 30. So while you're level 30, you just have another slot available to you. And importantly, you get some extra feats along the way at level 29 and 30, which I will pass over to Steelstar, as he has spent a lot of time on those.
A lot of time. Okay, so when you reach level 29, much like you did at 26 and 28, you'll get an Epic Destiny feat. These Destiny feats, there's a set of about 10 new ones that require 3 completed Destinies from a particular sphere. You also have in that slot the option of any of the other Epic Destiny feats that you could have gotten at 26 or 28. Kind of a variety of new things in there. We've gotten some pretty good feedback on them so far, so I'm pretty excited for those. At level 30, you will get a standard feat slot. You get one every 3 levels. You can put any regular feat you qualify for into that slot. And you also get a legendary feat. There are 10 of these. 10? 10. Yes.
10-ish.
10-ish. They are themed around the planes, and each of them kind of gives a package of a lot of different kinds of bonuses. Things ranging from spell bonuses, melee power, all kinds of stuff. Each of these is its own little package that sort of represents a direction you're sort of going in at level 30. They're a pretty big power gain, but yeah.
And I don't think I'm actually on the right character to really be able to show them off too much. I don't know. We do have regular feats as well, like Greater Ruin, some of that you can take at...
Right.
There
are
some
actually
some lower level
lower
feats
level
are also
stuff
coming out.
So there are quite a few lower level feats in this update that are brand new. Most of them are related to spell casting. There's some new meta magics. There are a few general use things like improved augment summoning, a few epic spells like Burst of Glacial Wrath, which is a big cold cone that has a chance to freeze enemies, and a large list of feats that we've been calling internally mastery feats that improve some of your heroic low-level spells to make them scale a little bit better into epic by raising their maximum caster levels. I think all in all, there's about 40-something new feats in this update.
There's quite a lot of new feats. It's worth saying that we are intentionally going caster heavy on some of the groups of feats here. We feel that some casters in epic levels have lagged behind melee a bit, and this is an attempt to try and address that.
Yes.
We're not saying everything is perfect, but hopefully we step in the right direction.
Not a complete solution to spellcasting in epics, but these increased options and the bonuses to spell power, DCs, all kinds of different things in here we think are going to go a long way to helping some casters that have been behind get a little bit further ahead.
All right. Let's see. Titan, I believe we already talked a little bit about flattening the XP curve in epic levels. You can actually see those numbers on the forums right now. Let's see. Are we giving out free Hearts of Wood to allow people to pick up some of these new low-level feats? Sorry, we don't have plans to do new Hearts of Wood in this. You can talk to Fred and do the regular path to qualify for these things and switch them out if you'd like to. Let's see. I don't know. We got about somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes here to answer your questions, and let's hear them. Whatever you got about Update 29, the future, what have you, now's a good time to get that information to us. Let's see what we can answer, or not.
Maybe No Worries wants to talk about random loot.
Oh, yeah, right. Good point. Very good point. Sorry about that.
I know he's back there waiting for this opportunity.
Yeah, why don't you scoot up a little bit, get into the microphone here so that everyone can hear you.
Nice.
So basically, it's all different. Everything has changed. Yeah.
It was
That's it.
It was quite a big overhaul. It's now all the effects that drop are independent of one another. There's no longer a shared power pool, which means you can just get good items. You can get good items that have good prefix, good suffix, or even an additional good effect. Minimum level was simplified, and now the minimum level of an item will be the quest level to -2 of the quest level. So if you're running a level 10 quest on normal, you could get items that are level 8 to 10. Existing loot boosts will still work the way they've always done. They will push up the table. We now have scaling effects, which was a big behind-the-scenes push for us, so we could make a lot of effects and items quicker in the future, hopefully making loot better, making it quicker, being able to make more items.
I think that's even come into play this update.
It has, actually. Like, our named item creation process was a lot faster as a result of this, which is great.
That's also allowed us to create smoother scales of progression for effects, which some of those will be a bit different for players when they start finding new loot. Overall, it's something that players might want to hop on Lamani and look at because it is quite a bit different from what they've been having currently, and we are still taking feedback and tweaking it even today, so feel free to hop on and post about it and discuss it.
So what was the main impetus to do this random loot change?
Part of it was that we were going to level 30, so we had to go in and adjust the loot tables anyway. And the other part was that, honestly, random loot just generally isn't that good in the current system, and we wanted random loot to actually start being useful and players to look at it again and actually even use it. And that basically required us to redo the system and start over fresh.
So people have kind of gotten used to knowing how or what to expect in certain quests. In a general sense, what can they expect to look different when they open up a chest?
The thing they'll notice is mostly the effects. They'll notice that effects now, because they're scaling, you won't see, for example, strength 1 through 10, you'll just see strength. And based on the power of the item will tell you how much strength you're getting from that. And the tooltips will update, so you'll be able to see immediately on the item what the effects are doing, and you'll generally have the chance to see more effects, and probably that they're good effects too. So you'll actually see loot you want to use.
It might be worth noting that there's a small chance of hitting a jackpot, kind of win big, where you'll get an effect that's a little bit stronger than you would expect for that minimum level.
Yes, that is also true. There's a chance to get even more powerful effects than what you should at a given minimum level. Those are rare chances, and the border color will change so that you'll also know that it's hit those tables, so it's something to look at.
Nice. The perils of playing on the dev server is sometimes you cause yourself problems.
Whoops.
Looks like I killed it.
Did you cheat a little too hard?
Yep.
That happens sometimes. I once accidentally gave myself 2.7 billion challenge materials by winning a challenge.
Oh, nice.
Didn't last long.
Hard to walk around with that.
Yeah.
Flexer's 4372 says, no new Tower of Despair? No, this one focuses on Hound of Zoriat, Tempest Spine, and Legendary Shroud. Will the crafting update be the same system as the new random loot system, or can we still craft items like the current random gen loot? Rothko45 asks.
I assume he's referring to Cannith crafting.
Yeah.
Cannith crafting for this update is staying as it is, but we are having an update to Cannith crafting very soon, possibly before update 30. So we will be talking about that probably in the next few weeks. So there'll be a lot of info on that, and it will be based off the new random loot and the new scaling effects.
All right. What about... Let's see, we have a question here I thought we could answer. Oh, tomes. Are we still going to see things like tomes and some of that special loot?
All the extra little bits like tomes and gems and all that still drops the way it always has. None of that has been changed.
All right. I unfortunately killed my client here, so I'm going to try logging into Lamania. See if I can do that. Oops. Anyone know or actually, I guess if I could have one of you guys log in on Flame. Do that. But we're actually getting pretty close to the end of our stream here, so why don't we just sort of take questions there. Jay Renard says, question with Legendary Green Skill. I saw most of the equipment effect tiers stack, but the higher tiers have the lowest numbers, which seems counterintuitive if you try to take a variety of different effects. What's up?
So that's something worth talking about. And things could still change here. It's worth saying. For the most part, the lower tiers are using the most common bonus types. So they're using things like an enhancement bonus most of the time, which is the stuff you'll find in random loot most often. Whereas the top tier is often a quality bonus, which is only found on named items. It's still something we could talk about. Quality bonuses in our current scheme are smaller bonuses than the more common bonuses. They are intentionally things that once you've got your basics in place, it's going to be like, I really need a little more of this. But we don't want to give you double, so the quality bonuses are smaller. But they're also harder to get. You'll never find them in random loot, so that's why they're tier 3.
All right, let's see. Gog Hayden says, could you give us an example of how effects will scale, like fortification? What are we going to see at, say, level 1, 8, 16? Do you know?
If I'd planned ahead, I would have brought a chart of that. No, I mean, for the most part, they scale pretty smoothly. Some things such as skills are a bit different of scale because in the past, skills start off slow and ramped up pretty quick at the end. But they all have a formula to scale throughout the levels, and I didn't bring any specific examples with me.
I think the big thing is that for most of the statistics, it's going to be a fairly smooth ramp from level 1 to 30. There's a few exceptions to that, like skills, like you said, but otherwise the value you get at 20 is probably going to be double what you find at 10. Not necessarily exactly, but...
Yeah, pretty close.
We have a couple people in the chat room basically asking about Commendations of Valor as they apply to Legendary Green Steel. So just in general, how do you use Commendations of Valor with Legendary Green Steel?
So Commendations of Valor are, as we've said in the past, something that we want to use for high-level crafting systems. They are used fairly similarly to the way they are used in Thunderforged. The only times you need to have Commendations of Valor is for making the initial blanks for your weapons, and also for crafting the shards of various tiers and tier 3 shard. And when I say shards, I actually mean the focuses, the essences, and the gems for tier 1, 2, and 3. Those require some commendations, which is used, but we've tried to keep the numbers relatively small, but this is our epic ingredient. We didn't want, this is what it's for. You can get those anywhere, play anywhere. You can still make progress towards Green Steel or Thunderforged or some other item systems.
Okay, that was making us big. I might as well fill up that screen with something here, huh?
Oh.
You
What
took my
about
spot.
Vision of Destruction is what I mean to say. Is that loot coming to the new Hound of Zoria?
No.
Yes. Sorry. If we do a legendary Vision of Destruction, that's when the loot would probably...
Maybe.
Am I understanding that legendary green steel can be like plus 20 stat items if you go with all the stat boosts?
The collection of all the stat boosts does get somewhere up there. The low one is 14, and then I think you can get seven. Yeah, it's
7,
definitely
3 or
it's
4.
definitely close to 20 or more with different bonus types. This is not going to be plus 20 compared to what you already have.
Right. A lot of those bonus types are things you already have, so it's not all a new plus 20.
All right, with the loot passes, let's see. What about basically the concerns that this new randomized loot system is a significant jump up? How do you feel this scales in terms of power of our current loot system?
It is more powerful than existing random loot. There is some additional gains in power because insight bonuses are now more freely accessible. They used to mostly only show up in named items. Now most effects have an insight bonus, which is half of what the main enhancement bonus can get to. So you will see that. I believe most named items will still be better or compete, especially new ones we make, but there are some situations where just because of the scale, you'll find effects that are a little bit stronger than they used to be at those levels.
Jay Renarin asks, will we see mysterious remnants in the new quests?
If you're playing the regular quests on Hard or Elite, certainly.
Yes,
Okey-doke.
that is unchanged in legendary content.
All right, let's see. We've got time for another couple of questions here, so question away if you would like to. Titan asks, what's one of the best things that has ever happened on the dev internal server? I'm pretty sure the squirrel attack happened on the dev internal server.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the squirrel attack. There's a video of that around somewhere.
There's the legendary squirrel attack, and there's the legendary splitting slime, where slimes split infinitely until the server crashed.
Also, the all-seeing squirrel, which was
There was
when
an
we were
all-seeing
putting
squirrel,
together Menace of the Underdark. There was a bug where you would go into the King's Forest and then it would crash. What ended up happening is that sometimes a squirrel would spawn right near the entrance to the King's Forest. This squirrel could see all places in DDO simultaneously, seeing infinitely and forever to the point where the server couldn't handle it and crashed.
Couldn't handle the awesomeness. Dead Rabbit says, with some of the new summon feats, what are the goals on them in regards to summons and pets? He also says there may be a few things we need to look at on Lamania. That's fine. That's what we're doing it for. Thanks,
Yes.
Dead Rabbit.
The goals with the summons and pets feats is to make summons and pets better. It's not much like the other caster feats in here. It's not a cure-all for all of the various issues that summons and pets and hirelings, etc. have. But it is meant to be, if you're the kind of person that wants to use that playstyle, to bolster those creatures.
Titan asks, any headway on gnomes? Update 29 is not about gnomes. That is tentatively set for update 30. And so we're still in the process. We have a lot of the artwork done on gnomes. I believe I'm not sure if have they done much animation work yet on them? I'm not even sure at this point.
Not sure at this point.
Yeah.
They've been talking about it.
Yeah, so it's on its way. It's still right on schedule, but it's not going to be an update 29 here. Hopefully update 30. Stay tuned.
We'll be thinking about them soon.
Yeah. All right. Someone asked a quick question about the XP increase for Epic Reincarnation and Iconic Reincarnation. I think we've addressed that on other streams. We do intend that you Epic Reincarnate or Iconic Reincarnate at level cap. The Reincarnation Guide defined it as level cap and specifically said that when we would be going up in level cap, that would be going up. I understand some folks still want us to keep it at sort of a mid-tier level and let you Iconic or Epic Reincarnate before you hit cap, but we don't have any immediate plans to do that. I'm sorry, but we do appreciate the feedback on it. We are willing to listen to you guys more on the subject, but as far as I know, at this point, we have no plans to change it for Update 29.
Those are our plans for Update 29. We're certainly going to be watching to see how this goes and how long it takes people to reincarnate. We've had some ideas on things we might do in the future, such as changing XP for some quests or possible, there's been a lot of ideas from the players and that we've talked about here. Most of them, we have our plans for Update 29, but things could end up different in the future.
All right. Let's see. Another couple of questions. If you guys got something, let's hear it. Otherwise, I think we'll probably call it done. Stay tuned for the exact release date. It could be coming very soon here. It looks like we're just in the process of opening Lamania up as we speak. So that'll be our fourth update to Lamania. Got some polish done on that. We would love to see you guys head on over to the public preview server. You can find out how to access that on the DDO forums. We also do want to thank you guys for joining us here on our Update 29 preview. We will be putting this over on YouTube and archived on Twitch a little bit later on today. Probably by this evening it'll be all uploaded and processed and what have you. Dirty Dexter says, are we doing anything with Update 29 to incentivize grouping further? We do have our grouping bonus that we ran just a little bit. I think we're keeping an eye on the feedback we had with our recent buddy weekends, and we'll let you know if we have more to say on that one in the future. Changes to festival cookies, what are they? Some of them have changed, but we're not going to tell you what they are. Sorry. The cookies are typically a surprise. We like folks to find them out the hard way, which is by turning them into the Jester, which should hopefully be happening also quite soon here. The Jester's, from what I hear, on his way to Stormreach as we speak.
The cookies are 20% more delicious.
That's true.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, I think we're going to call it. Thank you very much, Vargwheel and Steel Star, No Worries, and Knockback, and No Bob for joining us here on the Update 29 preview. I'm DDO Community Manager Cordovan. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone in the chat room who asked a bunch of great questions for us, and we will see you again soon.